Jordan Peterson, once again, with great wisdom about what it means to be a good listener. Listen in, and then I invite you to hear from a Torah perspective, from a mystical perspective, on what it means to be a good listener. I think it's going to be something special that you'll appreciate. Tell me what you think.
Okay, we're having a conversation. I'm deciding I'm going to listen to you. Right? That's different than how people generally communicate, because usually when they communicate, they're doing something like, okay, we're going to have a conversation and I'm going to tell you why I'm right and I'll win if you agree. Or maybe you're having a conversation where, I don't know what you're trying to do. Maybe you're trying to impress the person you're talking to. So you're not listening to them at all. You're just thinking about what you're going to say next. Okay, so that's not this. This is, you might have something to tell me. And so I'm going to listen on the off chance that you'll tell me something that would really be useful for me to know. And so you could think about it as an extension of the Piagetian. Piaget talked about the fundamentally important element of knowledge being to describe how knowledge is sought, the process by which knowledge is generated. Well, if you agree with me and I find that out, I know nothing more than I knew before. I just know what I knew before. And maybe I'm happy about that because, it didn't get challenged. But I'm no smarter than I was before. But maybe you're different than me, and so while I'm listening to you, you'll tell me something I don't like. Maybe it's something I find contemptible or difficult, whatever. Maybe you'll tell me something I don't know, and then I won't be quite as stupid. And then maybe I won't run painfully into quite as many things. And that's a really useful thing to know, especially if you live with someone and you're trying to make long-term peace with them, is they're not the same as you. And their way they look at the world and the facts that they pull out of the world aren't the same as your facts. And even though you're going to be overwhelmed with the proclivity to demonstrate that you're right, it is the case that two brains are better than one. And so maybe 9 of the 10 things they tell you are dispensable, or maybe even 49 out of 50, but one thing, all you need to get out of the damn conversation is one thing you don't know. And one of the things that's very cool about a good psychotherapeutic session is that the whole conversation is like that. All you're doing is trying to express the truth of the situation as clearly as possible. That's it. And so, now, Roger's proposition, and I'll tell you why he derived it, was that if you have a conversation like that with someone, it will make both of you better. It'll make both of you psychologically healthier. So there's an implicit presupposition that the exchange of truth is curative. Well, that's a very cool idea. I mean, it's a very deep idea. I think it's the most profound idea. It's the idea upon which Western civilization, although not only Western civilization, is actually predicated. The idea that truth produces health. But for Rogers, that was the entire purpose of the Psychotherapeutic Alliance. You come to see me because you want to be better. You don't even know what that means necessarily, neither do I. We're going to figure that out together. But you come and you say, look, things are not acceptable to me, and maybe there's something I could do about that. So that's the minimal precondition to engage in therapy. Something's wrong, you're willing to talk about it truthfully, and you want it to be better. Without that, the therapeutic relationship does not get off the ground. And so then you might ask, well, what relationships are therapeutic? And the answer to that would be, if you have a real relationship, it's therapeutic. If it isn't, what you have is not a relationship. God only knows what you have. You're a slave, they're a tyrant, you're both butting heads with one another. It's a primate dominance hierarchy dispute. Oh, I don't know, you're like 2 cats in a barrel, or 2 people with their hands around each other's throats. But what you have is not a relationship. And it's extraordinarily useful for people because it's often difficult for anyone to find anyone to talk to that will actually listen. And so another thing that's really strange about this listening is that if you listen to people, they will tell you the weirdest bloody things so fast you just cannot believe it. So if you're having a conversation with someone and it's dull, it's because you're stupid. That's why. You're not listening to them properly because they're weird. They're like wombats or albatrosses or rhinoceroses or something. Like, they're strange creatures. And so if you were actually communicating with them and they were telling you how weird they really are, it would be anything but boring. So and you can ask questions. That's a really good way of listening. But you know, one of Roger's points is, well, you have to be oriented properly in order to listen, and the orientation has to be, look, what I want out of this conversation is that the place we both end up is better than the place we left. That's it. That's what I'm after. And if you're not after that, you got to think, why the hell wouldn't you be after that? What could you possibly be after that would be better than that? You walk away smarter and more well-equipped for the world than you were before you had the conversation, and so does the other person. Well, maybe if you're bitter and resentful and angry and anxious and, you know, generally annoyed at the world, then that isn't what you want. You want the other person to walk away worse, and you too, because you're full of revenge. But, you know, you'll get what you want if you do that.
Wow. So definitely therapeutic would be that you're going to be in a better place than you were. So what kind of person would that be that would be therapeutic for you? Or how can you be therapeutic for another individual? Well, let's take a teachings from the Pirkei Avot, from the Ethics of Our Fathers, which was written about 1800 years ago. And one of the sages, Ben Zoma is his name, he said, who's a wise man? He asked the question. And he answers, someone that learns from every person. So you would think that wisdom would be something that you have to work hard to attain. If you want to have wisdom in a certain area in life, like as a psychologist or a therapist, well, you've got to go to school. You've got to learn a lot of things to get there and to be wise in that particular area of expertise and to be an expert. But Ben Zoma says, no, a wise person who learns from every individual. When does that take place? When you choose to. This very moment, if you choose to. Well, what does that even mean, to learn from every person? That I could do that now, I could choose to, but what does it even mean? What do you mean, from an evil person, I'm going to learn something? From a drug addict, what am I going to learn from them? Not to be a drug addict? From a thief, I'm going to learn not to be a thief? What does it mean to learn? What am I learning from them? So, if you believe that every person is created in the image of God, that means that just as God is one and unique and makes an impact, so is every human being is one and unique and is here to make an impact in this world for good. Now, maybe they're not doing it right now as an addict or as a thief, but that's what they were created for. And if you're wise and you believe that, then you will be able to touch that person in such a way, in such a manner, that maybe they are not attuned to that goodness in them, to the impact, the positive impact that they need to make in this world. But a wise person will be attuned to it and will be able to tease it out and help them to bring it to the surface, that they could live the life that's worth living, live a life that is aligned with their divine purpose. And then, guess what? They have something to share it that you don't have. Because just like there's no two minds alike, there's no two faces alike, there's no two thumbprints that are alike. Because I have my unique imprint I have to make in this world. You have your unique imprint that you need to make in this world. And a wise person understands that, knows that, believes that. And therefore, when he looks at that person who may be distant, may be far from the truth, may be far from even goodness, but knows that the divine image of God that they were created in is there very much hidden within them, can help them find that divine image, bring it to the surface, and help them realize the unique positive impact that they have been gifted by God to make in this world. That's wisdom. That's a real good listener. And then, but what happens? That person you'll even learn from, because you help them to realize their true divine imprint that they can make in this world, and it's unique to them. That's something that I can't do for another can't do for me, and there is something to learn from that person. That is wisdom. That's wisdom. That's listening. And that all comes from what we call a self-effacement. Not about what I'm here to fill myself with, to make myself better, to be in a better place. But I'm here to be aligned with the divine purpose that I was created for and to fulfill that, because that's what God created me for. That's what he needs me for. So therefore, when I come in contact with that addict, with that person who's really not so good, there's a reason why I came in contact. If I have the self-effacement, that I have the humility, that I understand that I am here to help that person and ultimately gain from that person, ultimately learn from that person. That's true wisdom. That's the Jewish way. That's the mystical way. That is the way we learn from the Tanya. I invite you to come and learn more from the Tanya, mystical Hasidic teachings written over 200 years ago by a rabbi called the Alter Rebbe. And his teachings are more sought after today, are more learned today than 50 years ago, than 200 years ago. That's real truth. Truth stands the test of time, that it is still being sought after. It's the teachings. It is still learned, and even learned with greater fervor, greater commitment, with greater numbers of people learning Tanya today than ever before. So join me on the journey. Mondays through Fridays, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube. It's live, youtube.com/Tanya Rabbi. Try it out. I think you'll become wiser for sure. And you'll learn, not just from the Tanya, but you'll learn from everything in life and make a true impact in life, in this world, to change the world for good.